I'm going to start with a little snippet. She was 17, in pain, being verbally, emotionally, mentally, and from time to time physically abused, and now she was a mother. No stranger to taking care of others, she had been doing it since she was 3. She was the eldest of 4. Graduating on time from high school with her class without dropping out or going to an alternative school for pregnant teens, while working after school until delivery. She was proud to have her 2-month-old daughter in the stands as she received her diploma, already giving her daughter an incredible example of her leadership resilience. She is me. So this topic tonight is called Leading While Bleeding. I am very excited to be the Inspired Girl author tonight. Like Jen said, I came to her some months ago. A couple of my friends, I asked them if I could talk about, if you could hear me talk about any topic, what would it be? And out of the 7 topics, leading while bleeding was one of them. And even I had to ask my friend, what is that? Where did that come from? Like, what do you mean leading while bleeding? Like, what is that? And her short version was, she watches me, like I'm literally her boss in the community, and she watches me go through things. And she said, you go through all these things in your life that most people would not only crack under pressure, but probably die. And then you're still a stellar leader. Like, I've been in the work that we're in for over 15 years, and I've never had a boss like you. You make my job easy. And I'm still stuck back there on leading while bleeding. Like, I just kept saying it to myself, like, wow, like, because you just think you're doing what you're supposed to do. So once I wrapped my mind around it, I told Jen about it. And I was like, she said leading while bleeding. And she was like, you have to do that. You absolutely have to. Like, I know you have to do it. So up until like literally last night, I was kind of like, well, maybe I shouldn't call it that, because there's a whole book called Leading While Bleeding. So I did a little more research, and it is an actual topic similar, but not exactly. That topic, Leading While Bleeding, is the hurts that leaders take on as leaders. Not necessarily just the hurt in your life or the circumstances or situations. So this is my spin on leading while bleeding, based on the friend's definition, and then actually recounting, like everywhere in my life I do lead, and I have met a lot of challenges, and still, by no brag of my own, am a stellar leader. So when you hear your...
You can brag.
But
let's have it.
Thank you. So when you hear leading while bleeding, what is something that comes to mind, if anybody has any thought about it?
That you're hurting, but you're putting it aside for the people that you're mentoring or taking care of or teaching?
Yeah, that's part of it. Yep.
And I'm thinking it's pushing through the pain and trying to help yourself show up, pushing through that and showing up.
Okay, good. Everybody's on the same page. Okay, great. Perfect. So, for me, leading while bleeding is wearing your resilience on your sleeve. So instead of your heart, because that's the normal saying, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You wear your resilience on your sleeve. And I'm sorry. And so lately I've heard people say, like, I don't want to be strong anymore. Don't call me resilient ever again, and I 100% disagree. Because resilience is the tool that God is giving you to get to where he needs you to go in your calling. You cannot live your life without resilience. If we rolled over every time life hit us, none of us would even be on this Zoom right now. So, the cancel culture is a whole other conversation. But I think resilience should be kept alive because it is your fight. It's your reward for showing up fully and staying in the game and reaching the destiny that you were put on this earth to accomplish. Leading from your emotions, and most importantly, not leading from your insecurities, not to be confused with vulnerability. But I know and unfortunately work for leaders who do lead that way, reactionary, in pain. They try to puff their chests out, to hide their insecurities or their pain, rather than using what they've learned from the pain to be a better leader. But we'll get into a little bit more of that in a minute. I also want to be clear that I know that everyone is leading from the last thing they healed. Our experiences are what make us who we are. But if you don't face who you are, you don't accept where you are, you cannot serve the people you were sent here to serve, at least not in the best regard for all involved, including yourself. Because you can lie to everybody else, but you can't lie to God. You can even lie to yourself, but you can't lie to God. But what he has called you to requires you to be honest. And that's actually one of my signature courses is called HELP, HELP. It's Honest, Effective Leadership Practices. Being honest about where you are, effective in the communication and other correspondences while leading from behind. Develop practices that tap into your team's individual whys, regardless of buy-in, and then improve the retention and the bottom line. So that's another course for another day, but that your honesty has to be with yourself and your team first. But back to leading while bleeding. One of the things you do with leading while bleeding is you compartmentalize circumstances. So that takes you to urgent versus important. Urgent is something that needs to be done right away in the moment. Important is legacy, long term. It has a deadline. It has a date attached to it that matters and will bring impact. Urgency is like emails and not so grand reports and things like that. But important is alignment, long term, legacy, life-altering, impactful things. So when we say compartmentalized circumstances, this thing may be pressing in your life, a personal circumstance, a kid going through something, got sick at school, whatever. Those are urgent things. But the important things, because I read The Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes, and it was something that stuck with me with that was, especially as moms, we tend to put ourselves last. Everybody else's needs are before ours, no matter what in the business. But Shonda Rhimes said something that resonated with me, and I watched her interview with Oprah over and over again on Super Soul Sunday, is some days you'll be a good mom, some days you'll be a good boss. And on the sweet spot, you'll be both, but not always. So choosing what's important in that circumstance versus what's urgent. Once we set aside the mom guilt, because it runs rampant sometimes, and that's just being human and a good mother. It doesn't make you a bad mom because you chose yourself first. It doesn't make you a bad mom because you chose what puts food on the table first. It makes you an even better mom because your kids see that what you need and want matters. So you are modeling a behavior that you want them to continue to have as they get older. And no is a complete sentence. Even when it comes to your children. I'll let that marinate for a minute. No, even when it comes to your children, is a complete sentence. And I know mine are probably older than most on here tonight. But even in their ages that they are now, when you're choosing to compartmentalize circumstances and situations and what's best for the overall lineage and legacy of us as a family or as a unit and as a leader, because you're also leading your family, no is a part of compartmentalizing those circumstances. Right now, I need to get this completed. This is the priority at this moment. I will address that as soon as I can. Or at this time, if you have a designated time, you can do it. Which leads me into pain and purpose. Pain can be really, really heavy. It can be really, really heavy. But it also can stretch you in ways that open you up to your purpose. In the thick of it, you can forget to acknowledge that your pain even has purpose. In fact, most, if not all, the pain I've ever experienced in my life brought me here tonight. Like, there would be no Bear without what I grew up experiencing. So, and most of you as well who have books and stories of your own. So, my biological mom was killed in a car crash in 2001, the day before her birthday. Once again, I was without my mom. The first time was due to foster care. This time was due to a green Mustang coming down a main street and took my mom out for good. But prior to that night, June 2nd, 2001, my mom's birthday is June 3rd, I had prayed that every person who crossed the threshold of my house would come to know Jesus more. So when my mom passed away, my house was the house. Everybody that thought about being a part of anything that was connected to this moment came to my house. There were people there who I wouldn't even let in my house had this not happened. So every person that came to my house crossed that threshold. Now, yeah, possibly if you had to let me see hindsight before that that's what it would require. Prayer might have been a little softer, a little different, but it was purpose in that pain. I was the calmest I had ever been, I think, in any type of trauma. You know, when the night that I identified my mama's body, I was sitting on my top porch with my feet up on the banister rocking, staring at the stars. No tears, not distraught, not asking God why. And my cousin who lived with me at the time, his best friend, came out to have a cigarette because there was no smoking in my house. And he was like, man, that's messed up, you know, Rob's auntie passing or whatever, you know, I'm sorry for y'all loss. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna miss my mom. And he turned and was like, it was your mother? And I was like, yes. I'm thinking the whole time he knew that because he had visited my house prior to this. And he goes, and you ain't throwing nothing, you ain't kicking nothing around. And I was like, I know. If you had asked me yesterday if my mother was killed, would I be this calm? I don't think I could have been. I would have called you a liar. But I always think back on that when God makes you a promise, because driving to identify my mother's body, like 45 minutes from my house, I wanted to cry, but he wouldn't let me. I think the tears got like about right here, and then they just dried up. He said, you good. I got you. Don't worry about it. And to the point where at the funeral, people thought I was going to have a nervous breakdown because I wasn't crying. I was dancing. I was singing. I was on the front row. I wore lime green to the funeral. So, but there is a strength that comes with joy. And you cannot operate as a leader without it. Resilience gives you that joy that you reach back for every time some type of turmoil comes into your life. You reach back for that joy. When you reach back for prayer or whatever, even to function, to think about praying, you have to reach for that joy. Circumstance and pain does not give you a free pass to do anything less than your best. Yes, it sucks. Yes, it's not cool. Yes, he was a dog. Or yes, I lost my mom. Or whatever the case might be. Your child is sick. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't help them. You don't know how you're going to pay the bills. You couldn't pay the bills and now you're homeless. That's a whole nother subject. But you still have to do your best, showing up fully, your 100% at your best in that moment. You may be with the sore eyes or just drying up tears, but you still have to show up at your best. Stellar leadership despite the challenges, no matter what. We don't negate responsibilities. We take ownership, we show it fully, and we empower our team so that they are willing and confident to do the same. So when you take a pass in your position because you're hurting or life sucks or whatever is going on, that gives everybody else coming behind you the free pass to do the same thing. So then not only have you dropped the ball, now they've dropped the ball, and now they've dropped the ball, and now they've dropped the ball. So now what did you do? You failed because you let your feelings or your circumstance or your situation take the lead rather than you. You have to always be driving, no matter what. That is not outside of being human or not outside of trusting God or having faith, but you still have to lead with excellence because other people are still watching. Not deny yourself the moment of grief or a moment to rest, but to still when you are on, you are on. And if you can't be on, don't be. Don't come in and do a mediocre job when you know you don't really have it. Take the time to come back and be stellar. But don't, I'll just do this to get by. Well, tomorrow I'll be better. Because that energy feeds into whatever you're leading. And that's not what you want. You want to always lead with excellence, not perfection. So, okay, that's all nice and good. But how? How do you do that? How do you have a kid who hasn't walked for 7 days and you spent 13 days in the hospital with them and still show back up at work, still continue to write your book, still continue to take care of your other 2 children, continue to pay the bills and feed your family? I use all the tools that my trauma taught me. AKA superpowers. Now, when you think about trauma, because we've all told a story here on one night or another about something we've experienced that sucked. Especially as a kid who was, you're not technically leading your life, but I was at 3 years old. I was the oldest and my mom was in her own amount of pain. So what do you do when you say trauma? Well, trauma is bad. Trauma is painful. It hurts. Nobody wants to look at that. But if you think about it, whatever it is that you were facing in whatever time it was, whatever age you were, you learned a skill or a behavior that got you to still be here. Whatever it was, if it's avid reading, you got lost in books, you found music, you found a talent that you escaped to, like I ran track. You might have played an instrument. You did something that made you stronger in one area than the other. One of mine, when I lost my voice as a kid, as a foster child, it heightened my vision. I didn't talk a lot. I didn't really want to say anything to anybody because I didn't feel like I had anything to say. But I watched everything. Every mannerism, every move my stepmother made, I watched her. Because I wanted to pay attention to what her next move was to know if it would impact me. What was she going to say? Was she going to hit me? Was she going to hit my brother because she was known for hitting him and making his nose bleed? So what was her next move? So I got hyper vigilant with watching every little gesture and move and the tone and everything that she did, and anybody else, because prior to even being her foster child, I was molested. You know, my mother was on drugs. She had friends who did drugs. I watched what they did, why they did it, how they did it, you know, when they would shoot up, why they would do it in certain spots versus the other spot, you know, all the things that you think, no kid is supposed to even be experiencing this. But it was also teaching me something else. And that helped me master and fall in love with details. So now I can hear you when you talk to me. Not just what you're saying, but the you that you're not showing anybody else. So it gets me focused on what matters to Jen. Jen loves everybody's heart and light. She's really sweet. Her heart is open. At the drop of a hat, she'll shed a tear and you'll know her sincerity. Jen Fiora is hilarious. She wants your energy to be high at all times. And whatever she can do to help you do that, she's going to. Denise loves to teach, wants you to learn more about yourself and be in touch with the best moments in your life. Christy is a boy mom who is very, 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 very enthusiastic and has a grand imagination, but tries to keep it low key because she doesn't really know if everybody's going to be all into the high energy that she has. Danielle is a rock star and wants you to find your inner rock star and help you get there and be rich on top of it. And that's just from the few things I know on Facebook and interacting on Zoom for now. Getting to know more about everybody. I just pay attention to those things that most people don't pay attention to. And that's just things that you have shared. But there are other things that slip in that you can see or feel or hear if you're really tuned into the details about people. So people watching, but details. Now I'm an obsessed researcher and all the things. So that was just one skill that trauma taught me, was to hypersensitive vision about other people. The other one was, it led to an amplified skill where I can blend into a room. Any room, like a chameleon. No matter the setting, my mannerisms and the time of the silence would make me the perfect disguise while hurting and hiding. So the good side is that I could blend into any room. The bad side was that I started hiding from myself, which is something that I had to work through. But in my perfect disguise, I learned to be what people needed me to be until they didn't anymore. So I could be whatever I needed to be in the moment. Whatever the moment requires, I'm available to that. So I can do that for the people that I serve. I can see them and not take away from them, and then I can be whatever they need in whatever setting. Because remember, we are still leading individuals. It may be multiple people on our team. It may be more than one kid. It may be an only child. But you still have to see them as an individual. They earn the right for you to notice them by themselves. Who are they? What do they need? How do they learn? How do they interact? How do they communicate? Because everybody doesn't do everything the same way. So based on who you're dealing with in that moment, it may require you to be vulnerable or to be triggered, but it will give them what they need, and then they'll be more in tune to give you what you need out from them. So the other one is code switching. Now, usually when you talk about code switching, it's because you can speak multiple languages. Well, I can't speak multiple languages, but my dialect game is as strong as I've ever known. So I can go from the boardroom to the backyard to the basement to the basketball court to the bedroom Whatever language you need me to speak, I can speak it. So it doesn't mean that you're pretending. It means this is what's required in this moment. Because how we may laugh and joke and be laid back here, we're not going to be sitting at the table with lawyers and describing a negotiation at the same tone and time. So you have to know how to code switch. What does this moment require? What language do I need to use? What terminology do I need to use? I learned that because when I brought home good grades, they weren't well received. If I brought home bad grades, so it's just like, hey, I'm neutral. This is what I did. This is what I got. I'm moving on from here. But then it also helped me when I was with my friends, when I was at work, at school, after school, when I'm pregnant, I'm a teenager, I'm going to high school. I was raped by my boyfriend in high school. All those elements happening at the same time. It's like, what do I need to be here? What do I need to be here? What do I need to say here? Because everything was teaching me how to survive and how to be safe. I needed to be safe. So in order to be safe, you use whatever is available to you. So it's like if somebody's physically attacking you, a spoon could become a weapon. So the same thing with whatever is in front of you that you're, okay, I'm going to adjust myself here because I want to be safe here. Okay, I can relax here. Okay, this is a good room. Okay, we can chill. We can kick it. No big deal. All right, got it. I can relax now. Oh, wait, no, that person doesn't like that. Okay, so let me pull it together. This is what required at this time. So it gave me other tools. So slang, sophistication, sarcasm. My quips are kind of quick like my wits. But I use all these different tools and some to become the leader that my children need, even sometimes that I need, because I have to talk to myself about governing myself, about holding myself accountable. Because how I started this with the poem is because I thought about that. I was being physically, mentally, emotionally, and verbally abused. And I still was going to school every day, getting my education, taking care of my daughter, and I'm here, and I'm sane, and I'm not bitter, and I can love other people, and I can help other people tell their story, share their pain, or whatever it is they need to do effectively. It's one thing to hold a title and to actually be it. And servant leadership is also key, but resilient leadership is also key, because you will always face something, even if it's not as tragic or as traumatizing as anything I've ever been through. Something will come up, even if it's a flat tire. If you blow your top in front of one of the top managers, that's not a good look. So even then, you have to be resilient and hold it together and do what's necessary in the moment. Okay, AAA, car insurance, or whatever you got. Or if you got to change the flat yourself, you got to take your jacket off, roll your sleeves up, take them lugs off, and change the flat and keep it moving. Wash your hands at a rest stop and make the meeting on time. So even in that, resilience is a great tool as a leader that we all can use. And even if you're bleeding, as long as you don't waddle in it, you will be successful. Thank you, everybody.
Oh my goodness, Nicole. So I wonder if you want to do Q&A with it?
Sure, absolutely.
Share. And I mean, I can just say that one of the things that just stands out for me that you said, as you were talking about these tools from your trauma, I loved how you weren't like, you were learning them in trauma, but you used them for light. And that's what I love about that. We can learn something through a trauma, but how we use it makes all the difference. So I love that perspective, and everything you said just so was resonate for me. But I want to turn it on to everybody else and see if anybody either wants to share have they ever, experienced leading while bleeding? I think we all have in our own ways. And any questions or anything you want to share with Nicole. But Nicole, that was amazing. And I thank you so much for
Thank you.
opening that to us.
I would say how great you are. Oh, was somebody else saying something, Denise?
Oh, no, you know, we all, you go first, I'll go after you, go ahead.
Okay, but I wanted to say how great it was. And you know what, I love how you articulate the certain things that we've all experienced, but I just love how you said it all, and it's just such a beautiful way of saying it. And it's not necessarily that you had to say it softer, because you didn't, but the way you said it just resonates. I just love it all, because, when you think you're a victim, when you're going through this, but you're still going through the things that you're going through, you're doing it for a reason. And it was beautiful the way you said it. So I appreciate that so much.
Thank you.
And it was
Thank
a
you.
teaching moment.
Yes.
It was really good.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much. First of all, it's so great to hug you.
You too. Everybody.
That's first. It was so great for everybody to hug in
Yes.
person. But you're very real. You're just so real. And that little synopsis of all of us is really cool. But I understand that you got to lead to believe, because you really you can't skirt around this. You got to go through it. That's what you.
That's it. That is it.
You
Yeah.
can't skirt around it.
You don't even, and sometimes you don't even know what's on the other side,
No.
but you still have to go through. You still have to go through.
Yes, and I'm gonna tell you, like, it made me think of, when I did lose my voice. We know about that, but when you said leave, but you have to, you gotta leave up, leave. Every morning, I would wake up and I'd sit on the edge of my bed. And I didn't want to go, but I had a little 6-year-old in the room, of course, that had to go to school. And I sat there and I said, okay, power up. Even with no voice, I'm powering up.
That's right.
I send them to school, and I'd smile from 8 to 3:30, and I leave, and I get the little boy, and I come home and I do all my things. But at night, I needed to believe. I led, but I had to lead.
There you
But
go.
I did have to do that release, because
And that's exactly it. Right. Showing up fully, but taking time to be human at the same time.
But
Yeah.
So that makes so much sense to me, because
Yeah.
I led, because I knew that if I didn't do that, I would not have been able to continue, right? Like you just said.
Right.
You had to be human. So the leading to believe, you have to give yourself that human.
Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
you're
Absolutely.
giving us that toolbox and all this great wisdom that you have.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey.
Hey.
Oh my God. Once again, it was so amazing to hug you. I was so excited to see you. I was just so excited that you were there. And I laugh at what you said about me, because it's so very true. And so very true. But what you said about the code talking, I have a potty mouth, a really bad potty mouth. And I come from Brooklyn. So when I get going, my accent comes out, and I sound like, my husband is like, oh, she's fired up. But it totally comes out. But sometimes you can't be like that. And what you said totally resonated with me. When I'm in school, I work with kindergartners.
Right.
I'm Mrs. Frugiaro, and that's a whole different ball.
Exactly.
From
Exactly.
Christy,
Right.
that's not
Right.
She's a whole different person in the classroom as opposed to outside the classroom. And then even, outside of that. So thank you for, it totally makes sense.
Yes. Yes. Good. I'm glad. Anybody else?
I just want to say that the quote that kept resounding as you were talking is that one that says, you don't know how strong you are until strong is the only choice you have, something like that.
Right.
Is that the quote?
It's close.
And right? Hold on. What is it? You never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. So,
Yes.
yeah. So I feel like, what everything that you're sharing is so resonant to when I think back to when did I become a leader. So I think I'm an Aries. So Aries is typically born leaders, but I don't think I ever really stepped into my leadership ability until I became a single mom. And I think that for me was the first time that I started having to make choices that were really, I'm leading us, and I was wounded and broken and sad and broke and right, all the things. And all of my wounds prior to that divorce were all brought me there. Right? So it was like I was making decisions from the wound. And then I had this ultimate kind of culmination of now I have to be strong no matter what. And I have to show up no matter what. And how do I do that while still healing myself, really? And so I just feel like that was just the whole time you were talking, like that was what was kept percolating inside of me. It's like that idea of leading through the wound and the healing, which, I mean, to me, that is like, I knew exactly what you're saying. Like, it felt so resonant to me.
Yeah, because everybody is going through something. Long before COVID and all the, as people say, panorama stuff. All of us, like I said, everybody is leading from the last thing they healed. Nobody's ever done, like, literally by mistake, I wrote down and I sent it to Jen one day. I got a sticky note over my headboard that says, a book about real evolution. BARE. Bear is my book. I actually wrote that down and I was like, wait, that's all the letters. Because God is just, he's incredible. But we're never done. See, we're always striving to the next thing. But honestly, until you leave here, you're not done being everything he needs you to be. So even though you've lived through this thing, now you became a single mom, you went through the divorce. Okay, so now Danielle has the job of leading other women who have went through a divorce, became a leader, runs a company, can teach her kids a certain thing that only Danielle has taught her kids. Because now that's the phase of your journey that you're in now. And when Danielle is 80, she'll have something that she'll be teaching somebody else. So it's never over. Like even when I got out of homelessness, even when I became the board president, even when my daughter was sick, is the worst that she had been in years. That's still never over. Like, I mean, it's just like even being a mom. Yeah. You think when they're little and they're gonna be gone when they're 18 and they're not gonna need me, or they're gonna not talk as much or whatever. My kids are grown, like got their own house grown. And I just picked my daughter up from work. So it's a never ending, but your role changes. You go from, I think I'm gonna write about this because I keep using this phrase. You go from being a manager to a consultant with your kids. When they're little, you manage their lives. When they turn, I'm going to say 18, but when they get to smelling themselves at about 16, you're a consultant. You can give your input, but we're going to do whatever we're going to do anyway. And that's the thing. But then now that's a whole nother phase of your walk, your journey. You are called to so much more than you even think you are. Like, what's on your agenda. I'm going to make this much money this year. I'm going to have this kind of car. I want this kind of house by this time. But God is in heaven like, yo, that's cute and all, but I got some other things for you to do. So along the way, you find other parts of you that you didn't even know existed for you to be able to do that thing that God has called you to do. You think you're strong because I survived this now and I can do this. And he like, okay, I'll show you. I'll hold your hand through this because you think you're tough enough to handle these things, but there's going to be like 10 other things that's going to come with it that you didn't know anything about. But I'm going to show you how capable you are if you just let me take you through it. And then the thing, one of my favorite songs is it's called Stop Hiding by John P. Key. And he says, the thing that you want to hide is the thing that he wants to use. If you will testify. So you gotta, like, you think, I can't tell nobody that I'm divorced. I can't tell nobody I was homeless. I can't tell nobody I was raped. I can't tell nobody I was molested. I can't tell nobody my credit cards are making me drown in debt. I can't tell nobody I owe the IRS $50,000. I can't tell. You think that thing that you're super ashamed of is the thing that, like, they're going to find me out. That's like the memes and the TikToks. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. Like, everybody needs to know. All the people who are assigned to you need to know.
Nicole, I have to share that. I have to share this with you because Jess, if she's still on, she knows. I have this thing, and 100% what you're saying. Okay, so everybody has their own thing, but I believe that God wants us to share our trials while we're going through them with a few believers that will hold us up in prayer and not let us go down the rabbit hole.
Right.
Get through the testimony. He wants you to shout from the rooftops what you went through so everybody can know. So Jess and I, we've been friends for years. And there's been so many times, we're doing whatever. And we'll say, I can't wait to share this after I've come through the other side. Because I feel like that's what the things that we are embarrassed of in the moment is where his light shines. So we never stop. Leading while bleeding, you can overcome something huge. And the next year you got another thing to overcome. And the next year, another thing to overcome. So that's why this top, I'm all goosebumps. I don't see it. I'm all goosebumps because the other thing you said about leaders that puff up their chest and their insecurities lead versus those that are just a little vulnerable, right? That are vulnerable. And that's what we want to be. It's we don't want to puff up our chest.
Right.
We want, I don't know. Everything you're saying is just so powerful. And I think everybody needs to know what, that this is part, it doesn't end. It's just all part of it,
Yeah. And because leading from behind, it doesn't just allow you to empower your people, but it allows you to see them. But we are you're in charge of those particular people for a reason. It isn't just the fact that they applied for the job or they took your course or they asked you to mentor them. God assigned you those people for a reason. You will have a tool or some kind of experience that you've had or a gift or a skill that you don't even think is necessary or is relevant to the relationship that you have with that person until you need to use it. He's put you in that spot because, and that's, I was in an interview for a manager once. And I said that, I was they asked, I can't remember the question right now. But when I said lead from behind, all the managers who were interviewing me was pause interview. Wait, hold on. What does that even mean? And I was well, most people I'm leading by example. I ain't leading by example. Well, sometimes your example is not that great, but that's a whole nother topic. But leading from behind says I'm empowering you to be able to become the next leader. Because we always focus on somebody else working for us or they're my subordinate. I'm their boss. I'm their supervisor. I'm their manager. But if they're not empowered to even do the thing you hired them to do, it don't matter what your title is on the door. They could be a VA. But if they're not empowered to do the task you've hired them for, based on your leadership is kind of irrelevant. That the fact that you're in charge. Because it's like, I got to keep asking you what to do. What can I do? How do I do it? What do I say? Who do I contact? Who do I call? Well, what did I hire you for? If you got to keep getting, micromanaged by me, because micromanaging is like, that is my pet peeve of all things in the world. But if I hired you to do this task and I say, I need you to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C like this, and then you come back and ask me 15 steps on how to do it, we need to have a conversation. As one of my bosses used to say, if you don't want to hear about it, you're going to read about it. Here you go. And it don't be something you want to read, because it usually involves a pink slip or a write-up. So just leading from behind that's a whole thing I want to speak on when I am speaking. But it just, I don't know, just people get it wrong sometimes when it comes to people and being in charge. Yes, Jen?
I think you should do a talk to some young parents and call it leading from behind. What a fantastic
I never
way.
thought about parents.
Yeah,
oh my
because
God.
we all have experienced, most of us are all mothers, right? And so, you mother, I know how you mothered, you wanted to empower your children,
Right.
and that's basically leading from behind, right?
Yes.
So, you've seen the
Yes.
helicopter moms, right? And you saw the ones like, oh my God, their kids couldn't even fill out a paper without them.
Yes.
And then they were the same kids their senior year. So their moms were not leading from behind.
Look, I'm taking
There you
notes.
go.
I'm taking notes in my own class.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I just got
I love
goosebumps when you said it. I'm like, that's the definition of empowering your children and not having to micromanage and do everything for them. So, so anyway, yeah.
I love
That
it.
is
There's
awesome. Oh my God. That's so great, because the number one phrase that my kids can, if I say, what do I always say? I don't care where we at, who's in front of us, they'll say, don't make excuses, find solutions. Like, that's like since elementary. I don't want to hear it. And my kids will tell all their friends, my mother is not the person who you want to tell you can't do something.
Oh, Jess is talking about a book, Sacred Contracts. Jess?
Yes, dear.
Yeah. What is that? Tell us.
Well, that's a book by Carolyn Myss, and it basically says what we're kind of talking about, or what's being spoken about, is you are divinely appointed to someone. And when I read that initially, I felt very compelled to be there for Natalie for whatever reason. And that was a couple years ago, but that, we're all designed to have a sacred contract. So that's, if anybody's interested in more, that book is all about that.
I'm going to check it out.
Yeah.
Sacred contract.
I love the appointment. I feel like we're all appointed to each other. This group was all appointed.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's all divine appointments. There's a quote, Nicole, I want you to write it down or look it up, because it really goes with this. I just saw it the other day. It said, a great leader doesn't create followers. A great leader creates great leaders.
Yes.
Michael, I love that so much. It just resonates with me so much. So I feel like that's what you're talking about, the empowerment, leading from behind and letting people shine, and really show up and shine their lights. It's not about people praising yours, it's about them shining
Right.
there.
Exactly.
And learning how to do that. So I love that.
And knowing that you have your people, knowing that you have their back. He's retired now, but one of my employees, he was dubbed like one of the difficult people. He has a different type of personality, OCD, very stringent. Things got to be a certain way for him, and he wants to know that you're there for. And when I first made supervisor in 2014, he was like the first person that told me, he gonna give you a hard time, and you gonna have to make him do this, and you did it. And he loved me. And they were like, you just got him spoiled, you coddled him. I'm like, this conversation has changed drastically. I thought I was gonna hate him. How did we get here? How is he spoiled now? But one of the things he would always tell me was that my favorite thing about you is if it's gonna be crap, you tell us it's gonna be crap. If it's gonna be good, you tell us it's gonna be good. And if I ask you to support me, you gonna support me. Even if I'm wrong, you gonna take me out back and tell me why I'm wrong. But in front of everybody else, you hold me down. You even tell people, I'll address that. You just worry about your end of the deal. And I've heard that from several other employees since he's retired. But I thought, I'm just doing, what I normally do. I'm just showing up and being who I normally am. But when your heart and empathy comes through your leadership, not emotionally, chaotic and getting out of control with crying and all that kind of stuff. But if you lead with your heart and with decisiveness, people can see that, but you have to know that your sincerity has to shine through too. You can't just say, oh, I'm nice to everybody. Fair across the board is fair across the board. Your favorite pupil to your not so favorite pupil, because we all have them, still have to be treated the same way. You have to defend that person you really don't care for as much as you defend the ones you love, so that they all can see that your team will stay connected, because they're like, well, if she's taking this difficult person on and she's standing up for this person when they don't show up for work and when they don't do this and they don't do that. Not only that, but addressing the behavior as well. Like, you can't love on them to, like the scripture says, spirit arise, spoil the child. You can't love on them so much that you don't, because discipline still looks like love. Accountability is not a dirty word. Accountability sets the boundaries that people crave. But people are so scared of accountability because they think that it's crack the whip, write them up, whoop their butts, all the things. And it's like, no, it's not punishment. Accountability says, hey, you stepped across this line. This line has been there. You knew about the line. That's one thing that step across the line. You stepped across the line. You knew the line was there. This is the consequence for stepping across that line. How do we help you correct the behavior that made you step across this line? Because it's not necessarily about, I'm going to crack the whip. Okay, you stepped across the line, you got to get this punishment. But that's not where it stops. Accountability says, okay, now let's correct the behavior. Because if you don't correct it, that's why it's called corrective action. It's not discipline only, it's corrective action. You take corrective action by holding them accountable and then saying, what are the tools you need for me to help you not step across this line again? Because it might not be, using attendance as an example, because I did attendance for the entire plant I work at. People don't come to work. But it's not always them not showing up just for the sake of not showing up. People call off, you're pissed because you're like, now I got to move this around. I got to put this person over here. I got to try to make this happen with 3 people when I really need 6. But what's happening in that person's life that has made them not come to work? Because they agreed to the contract to be here on time, on these days that they are scheduled. Why aren't they coming? Once you investigate and you find out, you give them the tools that they need, which empowers them to be a better employee, which then affects your retention and your bottom line. But if we don't connect with people that way, we never get to show them the type of servant leadership that we have. We just follow the rules and jot out the rules. And there's room in the rules to gain trust. And that's the piece that's always missing. It's like, human resources are not just recruits. Human resources are resources. But we take the human part out and we forget. And that's where you gain the trust, is you see them as a human person who has kids and a wife and a husband and a this and a that. And then you build that trust so that when they are having a problem, before their attendance is impacted or their job is impacted or their contract is impacted, you can have a conversation and say, how can I help you? And they will be willing to open up to allow you in to help them. I have some of my employees' wives' phone numbers in my cell phone. Like that's, that's a level of trust that you don't just get from just being somebody's boss. So that's the part of leading while bleeding, is also opening yourself up to allow them to see you so that you can see them better.
One of my mentors years ago, many, many years ago, said, always expect greatness from people and hold them accountable when they're less than great. And then when they know that you expect that greatness, they live up to who they're born to be. And if they can't, they'll talk to you about the why. And I remember that many, many years ago. And I always think about that. That sort of sounds very similar to what you're saying.
It absolutely is it. Yeah, absolutely.
You hold them accountable because you know that they're capable of more.
Yes.
You know that if you say, oh, it's okay because you're just having a bad day, and you keep it like down like that, then like, well, I can't reach that higher level. But when you hold it higher, they'll hit the bar, you know? So,
absolutely.
love that. So, does anybody else have any other questions for our amazing surprise? Was this a fun surprise? Oh my God, I love this so much. I love you guys teaching us.
Yes, this is awesome.
All of you. I can't wait. So, who still has to teach in this room? I got Christy, Jen. Jen, have you taught yet? No, right? Christy hasn't. Danielle hasn't. Jess, have you taught yet? No. Okay. Well, you got to message me. And let's get some surprise dates on the calendar.
Yes, absolutely.
Because I love this so much. Denise's talk was so amazing. Oh my God, with the voice and hydration, look, water.
Right, always.
Yes. Water. And Nicole, this was amazing. Really a good reminder that it's, okay to be human, but don't show up. And if you can't show up, take a step back and give yourself the space, but show up and, we can all lead while we're all bleeding. So we got to lead our lives every minute. So that is amazing. Does anyone else have anything else to say before we end the call?
Just that I love all of you and thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up, all of everybody. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And of course, I loved my hug from Nicole too.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
And Jen, because Jen came up from Georgia.
Yes.
Everybody hugging.
Because I didn't know she was coming, and I was like, oh my God, she's here.
It was the best time.
It was incredible.
That entire day was worth
I was
every
describing it to my bosses. They asked me, like, so how was your trip? Because postal workers don't get any time off in December. So y'all know y'all rock because I got to be able to be home.
Yeah.
So my boss was like, so how was the trip? And I was like, it was incredible. Oh my God. He was like, you didn't got to say nothing else. You are smiling from ear to ear. You must have had a good time. So I was like, I really did. I really, really did. Then when I said, we got another one in January, he was like, you leaving sooner than we think, don't you? I was like, no comment. No comment.
We have another one coming in April. I can't even talk about it yet.
Oh, man. Okay.
It is so good. I cannot wait till we announce this place where it's invited. It's huge. It is huge. I can't. Sorry, I shouldn't even have said that, but just burst it out. April, we have another one.
This is so awesome.
So, all right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you, Nicole.
And your
Everyone for
feedback.
showing
I
up.
appreciate it.
Danielle, it was great to see you, Jen, Jess. Oh my God, Christy, Denise. Thank you guys so much.
I'm so glad I got to do this because this is possibly going to be my signature speech for my speaking platform. So I'm excited. So thank you, everybody, so
Nicole,
much.
For the first time delivering this, you gotta know you hit it out of the park. And
Thank
so
you.
I really love the way that you came to me with the idea. Really, the rest of you that haven't yet, please, we'll make it a surprise like we do. I just think who's ever meant to be will show up. And I know you did a great job. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
It's your talk series.
Thank you.
Merry to everybody. I want to just say I
happy
love you
holidays.
all. Merry Christmas.
Yes, Christmas.
I mean, we'll see each other on social, but this is a Merry Christmas.
Yes, this is a little more intimate.
Should we have a Zoom Christmas party or holiday party?
Well, I mean, a little bit of spiked eggnog goes a long way.
Maybe we should plan that, even if it's after New Year's, like a little Zoom.
That would be
holiday
cool.
get-together.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I
But
think I'm gonna
you
plan
and I
that.
will start getting really, really Brooklyn, and then
Maybe we'll have, like, the little like recipe, you know, like a little like everybody have this food in front of them, so
That
eating the same thing or something.
would be fun. That would be fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
I think
fun.
that would be great.
All right,
Let's
ladies,
do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you all. Have an amazing night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Take care.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye, Chris.
Update available. I don't know, updates on, I guess. Because I'm going to need it Thursday.